How on earth are you supposed to invest your money when you're young? You're in your 20s. Well, here, Limitless TV, Kris Krohn, I'm going to share with you exactly how you can take a little bit of money in your 20s and turn it into a handsome retirement. Can you invest when you're in your 20s? Can you invest when you're young? You know, there's a lot of people that really don't think that you can because you're either in college or you haven't been working long enough at a job. And when you think of investment, you typically think in terms of lots of money, maybe tens of thousands of dollars. And you know, I just haven't been around long enough on the planet to accumulate that kind of dough that I could put into something. But the truth is, some of your most lucrative investing begins in your 20s. And surprisingly, it takes the least amount of money. The reason why I was able to retire at the age of 26 was because of a choice that I made when I was 22 years old. I'd already been married. I had just finished working my first full-time year at my first full-time job. And you know what? My wife and I were working super, super hard to be responsible with money, to try to stay out of debt as much as possible. But my very first mentor had given me advice. He said, Kris, when you buy your first house, if you buy it with $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 of equity, you can do that as a first-time home buyer for as little as $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. And that got me really excited because I thought, whoa. You want me to trade $3,000 for $30,000? That's a tenfold trade. Wouldn't you agree that sounds like a good investment? Well, that's the investment that got me started in my life. So I spent a year working at it. My wife and I, we did this thing called KPPPM, Cleanse Parents Penny Pinching Month. And it meant that we were going to be hyper frugal like she had learned from her parents, and we were going to spend as little as possible on dates, and we were going to save as much. And after a year, we saved $5,000. And this was enough for us to buy a home that had $40,000 of equity. We got it, it was worth roughly $150,000. We got it for $110,000. And the day that I went to that closing table to sign, I was so skeptical and nervous, trying to act as much like an adult. I spent hours poring over the documents. Now it's minutes. When I finally signed on that dotted line, I felt so happy. You know why? Because I had just traded a very small amount of money for $40,000 of equity. Now, the skeptics out there will say, well, Kris, that was just on paper. What did that even mean? It meant that a year later, I could access some of that money and buy another house with $50,000+ of equity. Now, all of a sudden, between my two houses, I was worth over $100,000, all based on a $5,000 investment. Now, you do the math. Would you trade $5,000 for $100,000? That's a 2,000% return. And so, can you invest when you're in your 20s? Yeah, absolutely. You do that. One of the best ways of doing it is through real estate. Because if I take $5,000 and I put it in the stock market, I own $5,000 worth of stocks. If I take $5,000 and I put it in a home, then I might have $40,000 in my bank account. And you better bet that I'm going to be leveraging that. And 2 homes turned into 3 homes, turned into 5 homes. And ultimately, that's what led to my retirement. So there are absolutely investments that you can make in your 20s. And now I'm going to get more specific. So how you do this is super simple. I've created a number of videos that talk about how you buy a home with equity, how you find the right kind of realtor. You're welcome to ask questions, even work with my power team to help make this happen for you. And saving up that little bit of money, this was the advice I got from my mentor. He said, honestly, to do 3 things. He said, stick with your job, and if you change it, stay in the same industry because banks want a 2-year history. He said, number 2, save up enough money for a 3% down payment, which for me was around $5,000 or less. And number 3, he says, develop your credit. I had very undeveloped credit, some bad credit, and I had savings time on working on my money to go ahead and put that in place. And all of that led to being ready to buy that house. Now, because I bought that house with equity, like you can learn in my other videos, I was able to leverage it to buy my second home, and that led to my third home. And those first investments of getting my net worth over $250,000, in fact, just a year out of college, increasing my net worth to over $1 million and being able to quit and leave my job, that was some of the best investing I'd ever done because it led to the freedom that I wanted in my life. And that is something that you can do too. Does this get your blood boiling? This got my blood boiling, and I'm 37, and it's been now 15 years, and I got to tell you, it has changed everything in my life to have access to this information. So knowledge is not power, my friends, my young friends, unless you utilize it, and I'm inviting you to do just that. Make sure you're subscribed so I can get you more training, more information, and look forward to getting you more of that soon.